All right, everyone, what's going on? It's Dave Mormon here, home service business coach. This is a very, very special one to me. I've got Mr. Cameron Herold coming on the show today. Cameron, we're live. How are you doing today, my friend?
Really well. Good to see you, Dave.
Good, man. And I already got good vibes because off camera, guys, I asked Cameron, do you want us to run through the questions? He said, man, keep it organic. Otherwise, I'm going to screw something up. So we are going one take, man, keeping it organic. And that's what makes for a great show anyways, I think.
Absolutely. Hey, we don't get to talk to a client on their site and say, "Oh, can I redo my pitch?" Like, you've got to be able to free flow and think from your, speak from your gut, speak from your experience, and then shoot from the hip.
100%, man. Well, I'll quickly preface, guys, where I learned about Cameron. I told him I'd do this once for recording. I was on an airplane about 6 years ago, and I heard this guy speak, Cameron Herold. He was saying all this great business stuff. But man, the one thing that stuck out to me was that in raising kids, you said you don't believe in giving an allowance. And I'm now a new father. Beckham's 9 months old. And I'm just like, I don't believe in that either. But you had a very unique spin where you said you'd have your kids say they would look for ways to add value around the home and they'd come negotiate. Do you remember mentioning that?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So an allowance teaches kids to expect a regular paycheck. You're constantly nagging them to do the work, so you're kind of managing them like a boss, and they do the minimal amount of work for the fixed amount of money, and they don't spot any opportunities, they don't act in an entrepreneurial way, they're not adding any value. And then a lot of the stuff that we're getting them to do, they should be doing. They're living in a house. Like, washing dishes isn't a chore, it's fucking part of living here. Taking out the garbage is part of living here. So the stuff that we do day to day is just part of living here. But there's other stuff that if you look for opportunities and say, hey, can I add some value here? Let's negotiate on it. It teaches them to negotiate, teaches them to be entrepreneurial. My son right now, who's just going to be 23 next month, is constantly looking for stuff around the home that doesn't get used, or stuff that I'm really not using as often as I used to. And he's asking me to sell it. And he's selling it on Facebook Marketplace all the time. He's just kind of part of his hustle. And he's not super entrepreneur, like he'll never be really running his own company, but he's definitely entrepreneurial. And instead of him looking or coming to me for an allowance or handouts, he just looks for more stuff to sell. And, somebody came to the home the other day and picked up a bunch of stuff and pays him money.
Yeah, I love that, man. I just thought I'd never heard of that before, and I thought it was so unique. So me being a new dad now, I'm like, man, I'm gonna store that Cameron Heroldism in the tool belt, and I'll keep you posted how it goes.
Awesome. Yeah, that was actually from a talk that I did about 12 years ago. I did a talk that ended up being on the main TED homepage, on the main TED website, about let's raise kids to be entrepreneurs. And it was all around ways that I was groomed to be entrepreneurial as a kid. And then my brother, my sister, and myself have all been running our own companies really for 20, 25 years. I had my first operational business when I was 20 years old. I had 12 full-time employees painting houses up in a small city up in Northern Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, do you want to go in? Let's get into your background a bit, man, because I was telling you off camera, like, our listeners are 95% home service trade business owners, painters, washers, landscapers, and they're fighting the good fight, Cameron, getting off the tools and growing to that $1 million mark and beyond. So tell us let's set some context to your background in this thing.
Sure. So I was walking through a university campus in Ottawa, Canada, and I saw a piece of paper, a flyer on the ground, and I went to pick it up to throw it out. I was president of a fraternity, and we had a lot of pride around doing, acts of service in our community. And so I went to throw this flyer out, and it said, earn $10,000 and run your own business. And I'm like, this was 1986. $10,000 was kind of like earn $50,000, right, today.
Sure.
So I'm like, shit, $10,000, run your own business. What's this all about? Turned out it was a franchise opportunity called College Pro Painters, where they would teach you all of the systems on how to actually set up and run a house painting business in the summer. So I got involved in the program, got awarded a franchise, opened up the city. I was the first person to run a franchise in that city. And I got trained on interviewing, hiring, operations, time management, financials, marketing, sales, everything in terms of running a business. Did that for 3 summers. My first summer, I had 12 full-time students working for me. I did earn $10,000 in profit that year. 3 years later, I earned about $26,000 in profit. And then I went and worked full-time for the head office, recruiting, hiring, training, and onboarding franchisees. So over 4 years, I recruited, hired, and trained 120 franchisees for them. one of which was Kimball Musk, Elon's younger brother. I hired him in 1993, right out of the university in third year. I also hired his cousin, Peter Reeve, who went on to build Solar City, and trained both of them to run businesses. So that was my early induction. And I was so terrified of failing that I really did everything the manual said to do. And to that day, if I pick up a business book, I don't just read it and go, oh, I am inspired. I read it and I do what the experts tell me to do. And more often than not, that expertise is going to be way better than I could have figured out on my own. But I was so scared of failing that I just did everything in the manual, and sure enough, I succeeded.
Man, that's amazing. So we got our start the same way, because I went in, College Pro was a competitor. I was university first class painters, but same thing, like fast forward 2009, hooked me with earn 20,000 in a summer. So
there you go.
Can you speak to the fact, man, of these student painting companies programming Cameron's mind for, like,
sure.
I don't think you'd be where you were today if you didn't like bump your head and scrape your knee when you were that age.
No, not at all. And by the way, College Pro was the very first in the space. It started in 1971 in Thunder Bay, Canada. It became the largest student-run house painting company on the planet. Every year, we would go out and recruit, hire, and train 800 franchisees, and they would get 8,000 painters. And then in the summer months, we'd paint $60 million in houses. That was back in the mid-90s. So it became very big. It spun off Student Painters and Student Works and College Works. It was all these spin-offs from that business. I was so inducted into these basic systems that they became the framework for building what became known as Gerber Auto Collision in the United States, Boyd Auto Body in Canada, because I was a partner in the franchising group there. Then I joined my best friend Brian, who was building out what was called the Rubbish Boys. We flipped the name over to 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and we built that company up. I was the COO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and that has College Pro painters written all over it. The biggest franchisee, their current COO, a bunch of their C-level team, all former College Pro painters executives that we helped recruit away. So yeah, it was really good place for us to learn the business and learn the trades and learn about running a company. Fast forward today, a lot of university students would never want to do that. They would rather run an internet company or a flipping company. So that kind of industry of training has probably changed, but it was a great format for us to learn. I was a reference check for Elon Musk and Kimball Musk in January of 1995 for their first company, Zip2, when they were raising their first seed round. I was one of the references, so I had to talk to their venture capital firm, and they wouldn't back Elon because he dropped out of aeronautical engineering at Stanford. They backed Kimball Musk based on his College Pro painters experience of having run a franchise for 2 summers in Toronto, Canada. So it's pretty incredible, the actual depth. I, at the head office level, got trained around things like situational leadership, coaching, time management, handling conflict, running meetings, doing interviews, doing one-on-one coaching, all of what would be considered the soft skills of business today. I really got a real-world MBA in that back in the College Pro Painters days when I was a general manager for them. And that's actually the content in my Invest in Your Leaders course now. If you're listening, you go to investinyourleaders.com. I packaged up all the core skills that I was trained in 35 years ago, none of which can be automated. None can be leveraged with AI. You have to know these skills to be anything in the entrepreneurial space, but those are the ones that definitely helped me build companies.
Yeah, investinyourleaders.com. That's your leadership course.
My son, both of my kids have actually worked in the trucks at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. My youngest, when he was in the trucks at 18, came back after about his first week, and he said, I realized that 1-800-GOT-JUNK has nothing to do with junk removal. I was like, what is it? And he goes, all customer service. It's all about getting to know the customer, engaging with the customer, being charismatic with the customer, listening to the customer, wowing the customer. Junk removal is just kind of a byproduct of the fact that we're engaged with customers. I'm like, kid, you get it.
Yeah.
And that is true for everyone in the home service space. It's not about plumbing. It's not about HVAC. It's not about painting. It's how well you can connect with the consumer, how well you can connect with your trades, how well you can connect with your employees. It's all about customer service and leadership. And I think if we spent more time learning about leadership and leading people and growing people and managing teams and the soft skills, if we spend more time on that than we do learning about HVAC and learning about painting, like, I don't need to be the best painter in the world. I need to be one of the best leaders in the world to grow my business. And that's true of every single home services company.
So good, man. Let me put you on the spot. We're going to play Cameron's the Doctor. Most of this industry, Cameron, has this diseased mindset where they are, like, I've got a window cleaning company myself. So if I approach my window cleaning business that Dave is the best window cleaner in Surrey, British Columbia, and he has to be the one to clean the windows. I don't personally believe that, but it's like an epidemic in our space, Cameron, and you know that it's run by business owners that are actually technicians. So I want to know why you believe that is the case, and two, what can we do as educators in this space to more pivot that as we move into 2025 and more of an Amazon-like of economy?
So here's how I know it's true. Andy Lennox was the founder of what became College Pro Window Cleaning and now Action Window Cleaning. And I watched Andy start this company up back in 1985. Washing a window can only be so good. Like, what are you at? Like the best in the world at washing a window? How much better are you than someone that's pretty good, right? I beat most of the pros in Sudbury, Canada at painting houses in that 3 summers. Guys that had been the Italians painting beautiful homes, doing it for 30 years. I would go onto a job and quote it and kick their ass. And I could even be more expensive because I could wow the customer. I could connect with the customer. I could explain stuff. I had my manual showing all my before and after photos and customer service and reference letters. I literally learned how to out-lead them and out-manage them. And I couldn't paint better than them, but I stole a whole lot of business away from them because I could out-manage and out-lead them, right? You don't have to be the perfect whatever. And Michael Gerber talked about it in the book, The E-Myth, that it's all about working on the business instead of in the business. It's all about working on the system side of the business. At some point, we need to delegate everything except genius. Here's the weird part. I'm not that good at painting houses, right? I was able to delegate that. I mean, in my 3 summers of painting houses, I painted about $500,000 of homes back in 1986, 87, 88. That's about painting $2 million in today's dollars, maybe $1.5 million in today's dollars. We're talking about in 3 summers. That's a lot of homes. That's about 400, 500 homes that I painted that I stole away from these guys that have been painting homes their whole life. That were technically, I'm afraid of heights. I don't even like going up ladders. But I was able to hire people, motivate people, train people, align people, pay them so that they were motivated, and then get the heck out of their way so they could actually paint houses.
Yeah, so that's the secret sauce then, is really, like, I guess devil's advocate, Cameron, the Italian painter has a full schedule. Where does he actually find the time to read the E-Myth, to put some of these systems? You got any nuggets as far as that for the busy entrepreneur?
So if you're an entrepreneur running any company and you're listening right now, what do you earn on average over the course of a year? So what would someone listening right now, what would their total compensation be? What would they earn running their business and doing their job for the 12 months?
Yeah, good question. I'd say the average listeners, let's say doing 300,000 top line, and they're making, let's say they're making 100 grand, right? They're on the tools, they're working a lot, no work-life balance.
Yep. So if you're, because they're painting the house, they're doing the installs, they're running the business, they're doing all of it, right? 18 hours a day, making $100,000 a year. That effectively is $50 an hour. $50 an hour times 40 hours a week times 50 weeks a year is $100,000. Okay. So for argument's sake, you're making $50 an hour. If there's any parts of your business that are minimum wage jobs, why are you paying yourself $50 an hour to do $10 an hour work? Why are you paying yourself $50 an hour to do $20 an hour work? So you want to delegate everything off your plate that is below your effective hourly rate. That's number one. Number two, you want to raise your prices. Every single person out there is probably charging too little. When I came into 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I rarely talk about this, one of the very first things I did in the first 2 weeks that I was there is I raised our prices by 40%.
Wow.
Ryan was charging $338 for a full truck. I raised our price to $478 in the first 2 weeks. Everybody in the company thought we were going to go bankrupt when we raised our prices. I'm like, we're going bankrupt now. If we don't raise prices, Brian's not making money, the franchisees aren't making money, guys in the trucks aren't making money. We can't deliver on our promises to the customers. We're raising price. We raised our prices and became kind of the Starbucks or the FedEx of junk removal. That allowed us to have more money, to hire more people, to delegate everything except genius. So that's number two, is charge more. Number three is people by day, paper by night. So during the day, the person needs to be growing the people, dealing with customers, running but do all the paperwork and stuff after hours. Do all the paperwork kind of at the end of the day. Don't suck up the time when you could be around people, leading them, motivating them, shifting the energy, doing sales, doing marketing. Don't do that stuff. Do that stuff when your clients are available. I used to do a lot of my estimates on weekends, and I took a lot of my free time during the week. My clients were available on weekends, so I could go to their home and do the estimates. But then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I would take time in the middle of the week to go golfing. So I put time in my calendar to have fun, knowing that I was going to be working in other parts of the days.
Yeah, I love that, Cameron. And I think, what we teach in our first module is just priority management. Like, I think if you don't have a handle on your calendar, forget about marketing and sales and hiring people. And so I think that's one of the first things most entrepreneurs, even in the trades, have backwards. They don't know their hourly rate exactly as you said. And then customer calls for an estimate. Yep, I'm on my way. Like they have no structure block schedule to their week.
Yeah, I did all my estimates were done at 4 o'clock, 5:30, and 7 o'clock, and then 6 on Saturday, 6 on Sunday. So I do 3 estimates, 5 days a week, 6 Saturday, 6 Sunday. Those are my time blocks. I totally use priority management. I learned it from a company called Priority Management. Time blocking calendars is critical. And then learning to kind of optimize things in your schedule too. And I learned how to get around the pros. I'll give you a funny tip. I used to go to the paint store and I'd bring donuts to the paint store once a week. So guess who was getting their paint delivered quickly? Not the guy who'd been buying the paint for 20 years, this young kid who was delivering donuts. And then I found out that if I faxed my order over, this was back in 1986, if I faxed my order at 7 o'clock and I got up and I had my shower and I went and got donuts and I showed up at 7:30, my paint was ready. So I would come into the store and I'd be out of the store in 60 seconds. Meanwhile, the pros are standing there for 30 minutes. I kind of hacked the system. You need to think of your time that way too. Another big lesson for everybody listening is you need to do a mini kind of P&L, a profit and loss statement on every job that you do. So let's say that you're painting a home and that home's going to cost $1,000 to paint. You need to look at your revenue minus your cost of goods sold, which is like your labor and your paint and your soft supplies. And then you need to think about what's your gross margin per hour, per labor hour, and is it enough? Make sure that you're making enough gross margin per hour over the course of the year to leave you enough to cover all of your overhead. Often, people don't charge enough on those jobs and they don't find out until a year later, but they've done 32 other jobs just like it, so they've lost money or not made enough on all of them. I want to know on every job, am I making enough per labor hour to cover all the other aspects of my business and labor? And I'll give a specific on this. 1987. I called this woman up to paint her front door and she said, how much is it going to be? And I said, it's $150. She's like, what? It's only my front door. I mean, again, this was back, that's like charging somebody $500 today for a front door. I'm like, ma'am, I have to come to your home and color match the door and leave and go to the paint store. Then I have to come back to your home and scrape and prime the door. And then I have to leave. Then I have to come back to your home and do a first coat. And then I got to leave. Then I come back tomorrow and do a second coat. Then I got to leave. Then I come back to pick up the check for you and make sure you're happy. I have to come to your home 5 times.
Yeah.
If that's $30 per trip, that's why I'm charging you $150. I said, for $150, I'll paint your garage door and your doghouse too. But I don't get out of bed for under $150. And every contractor needs to build that into their business as well. We need to have that minimum effective hourly rate and enough contribution margin to make sure that our business is set up properly.
Yeah. So good. And any painter will know that front doors are just a pain in the ass as is too. They can be certain ones. Yeah.
What's the 100%. Peter factor, right? What is the pain in the ass factor of the job, and are you building that in? Now, I know a lot of us aren't smart enough on the accounting side of things, me included. What you need to do is get an accounting person to help you set up a simple system to do a job cost and profit analysis on every job. So you do it at the end of every single job, whatever your company is, and that you have a targeted gross margin per hour, a dollar amount per hour, per labor hour that you're earning, that will cover your accounting and your legal and your office and your admin and your salaries. Otherwise, you're just not making enough money. And by the end of the year, you're kind of spinning your wheels. You need to know that in advance. Yeah. Plan your work and work your plan.
This is so good, Cameron. Like, handling your time is huge. And then raising your prices, like you said you did at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, that's the whole foundation you build your business on. And that's where you can actually, because a lot of people would listen, Cameron, and say, I don't have the money to do that. Well, if you raised your prices, you would. So here's my $1 million question, Cameron. Did you guys feel you jacked prices up 40% on 1-800-GOT-JUNK? There's still, back in the day, man, we call it now the $99 guy who's going around door knocking, like cost cutting. And that can cause entrepreneurs to retrench themselves and say, actually, let's drop our prices to get the job. So as a home service pro, how do you hold the line and say, let's just use painting again? I'm charging $5,000 to paint this house. Other competitors are going in at $2,500. Let them have at her, but I'm staying strong. How do you build that into your psyche?
So remember that there's also a coffee shop out there that you can go get a coffee today for $1, but we still go to Starbucks or the hipster coffee place and pay $7, $8, $9 for a coffee today. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the $9 place today because I just like it. I like the environment. It's stupid. I could go to a place, I'm sure, within a couple blocks for $3. You can always get the $99 guy to come and paint your house or to come and haul your junk away. Are you really comfortable with having that person on your property? Are you really sure that that's the kind of person you want walking around your property when your kids or your wife is by yourself? And by the way, the husband is not making the decision on who comes on the property. 85% of all household buying decisions, whether it's electrical, HVAC, plumbing, carpentry, flooring, lawn care, yard work, house painting, whatever, the wife is making the yes. The husband might think he's making the technical buying the decision, but the wife behind the scenes is saying, there's no fucking way that guy with the cigarette out of his mouth and paint all over him, there's no way that jerk is coming to my property. I don't feel safe. So sell against that. Sell into the fact that you have clean, shiny trucks, friendly, unified foreign drivers, on-time service, upfront rates. Have your marketing show these fraternity boys in golf shirts and like, we didn't hire garbage men. We also didn't hire the typical Italian tradespeople to go paint houses. We hired the fraternity and sorority kids. We put them into uniforms. We taught them how to flirt with a housewife. We taught them how to sell on site. We actually taught them how to sell against the people that were cheaper.
Yeah. So good. So good. I want to get more into your story, Cameron, because we'll talk about everything you've got going on, but do you mind just giving some context? Because I think you guys nailed it at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I personally believe, man, you guys did change the home service industry with how business is done, and I think you see franchises now, and they have still elements of 1-800-GOT-JUNK in it from the branding, but you guys were first to the game. So just tell me timeline, what you did as CEO there, because I think it's phenomenal.
Well, it's interesting. We would think that College Pro was first, or sorry, that 1-800-GOT-JUNK was first to the game, but I'm actually going to tell you and call it right now, it was actually College Pro Painters that was first to the game. Okay. So I'm going to show you a photo right now, and you can share this later if you want to. You can share with the listeners. Can you just do a share screen for me?
Yep, got it.
So take a look at this vehicle.
Oh, man.
Look, what is this? So I'm showing a yellow College Pro Painters vehicle with a massive logo on the side of it. And this 22-year-old wearing chinos and a branded shirt, that's me.
Yeah.
30. We had branded wrapped vehicles 10 years before I joined 1-800-GOT-JUNK, 20 years before the quality focus areas. So we took this idea of a very fragmented industry and branded it, professionalized it, systemized it. When Brian started 1-800-GOT-JUNK as the Rubbish Boys, there were 17,000 independent junk removal companies already in existence. Do you know that there was no term junk removal at the time, though?
Wow.
There was no SIC code for junk removal. There was no Yellow Pages category back in the day for junk removal. Brian had to lobby with both industries to get that category put in place. He created an industry around 17,000 independent men with trucks or rubbish removal or hauling companies, right? So we just took a very fragmented industry and professionalized it. But people have had branded vehicles forever, right? Or for a long time. We just decided to kind of, how do you take what FedEx does and bring it into house painting or bring it into junk? And yeah, you're definitely seeing that in all kinds of industries today. But we were doing it for years.
Yeah, no, I did not know that. So really you're crediting College Pro, and you took that into like, you significantly scaled up 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Do you mind touching on that?
Brian's very first franchisee is a guy named Paul Guy, who owns Toronto, New York, and most of Australia. Paul Guy was a general manager with College Pro Painters here in Vancouver, Canada. And I walked into their office at 12th and Main one afternoon, and I said to Paul, I closed his door because Tim Clark, the founder's brother, was standing in the next room. And I said to Paul, it's time for you to leave College Pro. I left a few years ago. It's time for you to quit today. You should go join Brian. He wants someone to help him run a student franchising program for the Rubbish Boys. So Paul Guy quit his job. They did the student program for the summer. And then Paul became the first full-time franchisee and drove across Canada in his truck filled with all of his materials, and they opened up Toronto. So the very first franchisee was a college pro guy. The current COO, Eric Church, who's taken the company from when I left from 106 million up to 450 million. Eric and I started a fraternity together in Ottawa, Canada in 1987. I was president the year one. Eric was president the second year. I got Eric into College Pro Painters that summer as a franchisee. Eric's now been the COO at 1-800-GOT-JUNK for the last 13 years. James Ailish, who runs the window washing company, Shack Shine, is a former College Pro Painters guy. I recruited James out of College Pro, and one of the last couple of weeks I was working at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I could go on and on and on. Dave Harrop, who runs Calgary, former College Pro. Derek Laterante, who runs New York, former College Pro. Corey out of Chicago, former College Pro. There's a lot of College Pro blood. Rod Larmont at the head office at OTE Brands. They recognize that good people hang out with good people. How do you go hire more and more of those good people away? It's why people should invest in mastermind communities like what you run, or join my group coaching program, or put their people into something like the OpSpot or my course. The good content has already been created. Follow that, do that, right? Take the book and don't be inspired by it. Do what it tells you. My dad told me at 16 years old, I would never be smart enough to figure this out on my own. He said, your R&D should stand for rip off and duplicate. Yeah. So why would you not just take like the content in my Invest in Your Leaders course and follow it and do it? Why would you not take the content you're learning from your coaching program and just follow it and do it? That's way better than trying to figure it out for yourself, right?
Can you dive a bit deeper? I know you have a great story. I think you said this on one of your talks. Your dad took you to the golf club like midday, and I'll just let you take it because I don't want to botch your story. I think it's a great principle.
So we only start a company for one of three reasons: either to give us money, or to have that sense of accomplishment, to put a flag or a stake in the ground to say we accomplished something, to prove to our teachers we're not that stupid, or prove to ourselves that we can do it, right? That accomplishment feeling. And then the third reason is to give us time, to give us free time. Most entrepreneurs, almost everyone listening today, is making pretty good money, right? We can always make more, but at some point you've got enough money coming in. And then once your business is up and running and you've got some employees, you've done that. Now it's about giving you some free time. I was very lucky that my father was an entrepreneur and both sets of grandparents were entrepreneurs, that my dad took me to the golf course one Wednesday afternoon at 12 o'clock and we went to play golf. And he was showing me all the guys and all the women walking into the golf course at 12 o'clock on a Wednesday. And he said, he owns a car dealership. It was Bruce McCullough. He owns a clothing store. It was Jim Wilkinson. And this guy, and I still remember these people's names. He showed me the people coming in and all the businesses that they owned. So then we went out and played golf, played our 18 holes. We were sitting up on the balcony after it, like 5 o'clock. I'm eating my fries and gravy, drinking a cherry Coke. My dad's showing me all the people walking in to play golf at 5 o'clock because the golf course won't close till 10 o'clock up in Northern Ontario in the middle of summer, right? So you can still play 18 holes starting at 5. She's a teacher. He's a lawyer. He works for this company. He works for that car dealership. He said, do you notice the difference of who played golf at 12 o'clock and who plays golf at 5 o'clock? And I said, yeah, people that play golf at 12 o'clock own their own company. People that play golf at 5 o'clock work for a company. My dad said, when do you want to play golf? I said, all the time. He said, then you have to run your own business. He said, when you run your own business, you can do what you want, when you want, you can control your own time. Yeah. But you need to make sure that you use that time and you don't just work all the time. Well, I had a really good role model because my dad was at all of our games, was at tons of our practices, was definitely present, played lots of golf, went hunting, went skiing with them like all the time, lots of vacations. My dad was very present. He was home every day for dinner at 5:30. Now, he worked very hard and he ran his own business, but he prioritized fun and family, and the business then made money and did well because he delegated everything except genius.
So good. Thanks for sharing that. How does, though, a business owner, like I personally don't subscribe to Cameron, the 4-hour work. Like I understand it in essence. Maybe you got a company on cruise control, but I think a lot of these owner operators listening, they're putting in their best 50, 60, 70 hours a week. I know I am. So do you have any tips to balance out? Like, because it's a mental game as well.
So I'm actually really close friends with Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. He used to sleep on my couch here, or not my couch. He slept in my spare room in Vancouver. 2008. I brought him to Burning Man that summer, 2008. So I've known Tim for a long time. Yeah. So the idea with the 4-Hour Work Week is to be able to automate and optimize your business and to be outsourcing parts of your business to freelancers and employees so that you can work just in your area of unique ability, your area of genius. So there is parts of that should happen. Too often we get tied up to the fact that I need to do this. I'm either the smartest person. Well, in that case, delegate the stuff anyway and grow those people, grow their skills, grow their confidence so that they can do it. Secondly is you're doing work that is below your effective hourly rate, so pay people to do it. And if you can't afford to, charge more. And if you're saying you can't charge more because the competitors, learn how to outsell the competitors, because somebody's charging $10 for a coffee, somebody else is charging $3. You're selling yourself on the fact that you can't do it. Learn to do it. Go and actually rip off and follow the systems of companies that are doing it. So charge more, delegate more, outsource more, and grow your people more. If you grow the capacity and the skills and the connections of your people, they can do more. If you're charging more, you can hire more. And then set bigger goals for yourself. Set a goal and a plan on how you're going to double the size of the business this year and then execute that plan. Plan your work and work your plan. But if you're hitting your glass ceiling, that's a self-imposed glass ceiling.
Man, let's dive on that because, we gave the example, the guy, the gal doing 300K. There are definitely some listeners and even companies we work with that are higher than that. Let's say they're around $1 million mark and the owner's making, let's say, 200 grand, right? They got their needs met at home. They got the rent, mortgage paid, but they don't have their time. So do you mind tying in, is it too early to look at a CEO your COO, I'm sorry, because you've mentioned something too in your talks where we sometimes screw up titles, especially when we're small too. So let's talk to the guy or girl around $1 million and they're hitting their financial needs. Of course, we could always want more, but what steps do we take to get that precious time?
You should never have a single person in your company with a C-level title until you get at least $10 million in revenue.
Wow. Okay.
I don't care what your company is. If you haven't got to 10 million, you have no business having a chief marketing officer, a chief technology officer, a chief of staff, a chief operating officer. At best, you have vice presidents or directors. If you're running a company less than 5 million, at best, you have vice presidents, probably more like directors or managers. So don't give out big titles too early. You can delegate stuff, right? If you don't have an assistant, you are one. And if you're doing work that is minimum wage jobs, or by the way, there's lots of work that you can outsource to people in the Philippines or online. And if you don't know where those places are, find out, post, check, take a look at a group called Multiply Me or My Outdesk or Fiverr or, there's all kinds of places that you can outsource work to. But get some of that stuff off your plate. You also don't need full-time employees. You can have a fractional person who works with you 5 hours a week. We're in a day now where people can work remotely from anywhere in the world. We have a full-time assistant who works for me at the CO Alliance. She's $6 an hour. She's based in the Philippines. She's 40 hours a week. For $6 an hour, I can't afford not to hire her. Like, it's stupid not to hire her. So you just give her more work to do all the time and she gets it done. And if she works for 10 hours, that's $60. In that 10 hours of me delegating stuff to her, I can find $10,000 worth of business. So if you're focusing on the right stuff, your business will scale. So the first role you need to hire is not a COO. It's an assistant or a fractional assistant, or at best a person to start managing people for you. And again, if you keep saying to yourself, well, I can't, charge more because then you'll be able to afford to. That's step one. And then really become that lazy entrepreneur. Most often, the reason why an entrepreneur is working on their business 16 hours a day is they've lost touch with themselves or their kids or their spouse or their hobbies. And the only thing that's giving them any dopamine boost and making them feel happy is work. But the reality is because they're unhappy in all the other areas of your life. So stop lying to yourself and saying that you're the only person that can do it. Stop lying to yourself and saying that it needs to be you. What you need to do is work on all those other aspects of yourself, right? Work on all the other aspects of your life.
I find too, Cameron, that I picked up golf this last year. So our son was born last year. I still managed to golf 25 rounds, which I was going every week when the weather was good. I found, Cameron, when I was actually away from my company, I came back after playing 18 and I usually try play alone. So I'd just have Dave time. I found I was so much more effective. Is that a thing where you're away from your business and you come back actually feeling better?
1,000%. I mean, I'm doing a 1 week cleanse starting on Friday where I will have no laptop, no cell phone, no connection to television, no connection to the outside world for an entire 7 days, my wife and I were going to a spa, doing massage, doing yoga, doing meditation, doing breath work, going through a full diet cleanse. And we're already healthy. We're just doing this as a way to decompress and disconnect. The more that you can disconnect from the business, the more that you can think clearly. So I do that all the time. I took 13 weeks vacation last year, where I took 13 weeks away from my company. And that forces me to delegate more. It forces me to grow people. It forces me to coach people. It forces me to align people. It also allows them to get their work done without me dumping more crap on them. But yeah, you need to disconnect to think clearly. There's not a single professional athlete on the world, not one in any single sport, who performs in their sport 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They might practice, but they're not performing at the highest level. There's no way you're performing at the highest level for 60, 70 hours a week either. At some point, you're hitting diminishing returns. So you really want to start to delegate more, say no more, disconnect more. Look, if my grandfather could build Searle Pharmaceuticals, a massive pharmaceutical company, and still play golf 3 or 4 days a week without a cell phone, without checking into the company 5 hours, then you can grow your company too. If my other grandfather can grow a hunting and fishing resort, and he can spend time with the guests and spend time connecting with his team and outsource to other people who can run the business, and still play golf and go skiing and cross-country skiing and hunting, again, without a cell phone to check in all day, then you can too. It's just excuses that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
By the way, if you keep telling yourself the excuses, someone else will compete against you and they won't have the excuses and they'll kick your ass.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. And I find we define success, entrepreneurship, and, revenue and making money, and that's good. But I think the equation needs to shift to talk about what is your dream life. And I know, we'll link all your books up, Cameron, because Vivid Vision hits on that. What is the life you're designing in 3 to 5 years from now? Is something we need to start thinking about and working backwards.
Yeah, it's the reason my wife and I sold everything 3 years ago. We sold our home in Arizona, sold our home in Vancouver, sold our furniture, sold our cars, sold off most of our assets, is so that we can travel the world, live globally, be completely uncoupled from crap. And I can still run my company from everywhere, but we can actually just start crossing off our bucket list and really enjoy life.
Man, that is so cool. Do you mind how have you found the last few years kind of being less attached to stuff? Any takeaways on that?
Well, I only own 2 pair of jeans and a pair of beige pants. I could tell you my entire wardrobe. I have 3 white t-shirts, 3 gray t-shirts, 3 black t-shirts. I literally own almost nothing.
Yeah.
It's been great. I mean, there's the stressful parts of living globally are, we've been to 45 countries in the last 3 years. So, and some of those countries, multiple cities. But that means at least 45 new coffee shops, 45 new gyms, 45 new trainers, 45 new yoga studios, 45 new grocery stores, finding your way around 45 new grocery stores. You do that 45 times in 3 years, it gets hard, it gets draining. But the upside is all of those experiences, all of those, trips that we've been able to do, all of those bucket list items we've been able to cross off has been pretty freaking cool.
Man, and it's so cool to be free too. I mean, I live in Canada myself, outside Vancouver. It's a great country, but we pay really high taxes, man, and we got some crazy stuff. There's other cool places in the world to actually see. We got some strict rules here, so the pros and cons.
Well, I'm also a resident of the United Arab Emirates. So I'm a resident of Dubai, and my company is based in Dubai. So I actually don't pay tax.
There you go. Even better. Yeah, that's
legally.
Amazing.
Legally,
amazing.
All legally above board. No capital gains tax, no dividends tax, no personal income tax.
Yeah, super cool. Couple more questions, Cameron. I want to be respectful of your time. What is it? You talk a lot about this in your stuff. I'd love to get it for our listeners here. How does an entrepreneur actually find their, I think it comes from Dan Sullivan, actually, their unique ability, their zone of genius. Again, if you can frame it in the 7-figure entrepreneur mindset, because we're not good at everything and we have to learn that.
So it is Dan Sullivan. He runs a company called Strategic Coach, created a concept called the activity inventory and unique ability. So the concept basically is this: pretend that someone followed you around with a video camera and they filmed you doing your job, running your company for an entire month. So 30 days, they filmed you from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night. And then you play back the video and you write down everything that you're doing over the course of that month. You open emails, you reply to emails, you book meetings, you visit client sites, you coach people, you deal all of the hundreds of items of things that you do. What I do is I tend to write all those items down in a spreadsheet in column A. So all the stuff that I do, 80, 90, 100 things are in column A. In column B, I categorize them in one of four ways. Either I for incompetent, meaning I suck at it. C for competent, meaning I'm okay at it. E for excellent, meaning I'm really, really good at it, but I don't necessarily love doing it. And then U for unique ability is the stuff I'm really, really good at, and I love doing it. I get energized while I'm doing it. I would do it for free, except my kids have to eat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in column C, if I was to pay someone just to do that task day in and day out, what would I pay them? What's the hourly rate? What's the hourly rate to pick up paint? What's the hourly rate to scrape a house? What's the hourly rate to do finish coat? What's the hourly rate to do cold calling? What's the hourly rate to do sales calls? What's the hourly rate to do marketing? What's the hourly rate to, what's the hourly rate for all my tasks? Then I go back and I delegate or hire someone or stop all the incompetent and competent. There's a lot of stuff that we end up doing just because we've always been doing it, that if we just stop doing it, we don't even need to get anybody else to do it.
Yeah.
But at least get all the stuff off your plate that you suck at or that you're okay at. That's a starting point. Then get stuff off your plate that's below your effective hourly rate. Or as a friend of mine, Dan Martell, who wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time, Dan takes the effective hourly rate of our guy at $50 an hour. He divides it by 4, right? So he's saying anything below $12.50 an hour, right? If you can get somebody in the Philippines to do that for $6 an hour, why the fuck are you doing it? Like, it just doesn't make any sense why you would do a task that you can outsource for 1/4 of your effective hourly rate.
Yep.
Those are the good starting points. When you get to there, then you're at a level like where I'm at. You can delegate everything except genius. You can even get stuff off your plate that you're excellent at, that is really expensive stuff, but you just don't like doing it. So that the only things you're doing at is the stuff you really like, the stuff you're really good at, that's at a pretty good hourly rate. That's how you can buy back your time and you can actually scale up your business.
Like, your genius now is probably getting on shows like this so more people learn about Cameron, probably working in your group coaching program, and probably writing more books. Is there anything I missed? Because there's a lot of other shit to run a business, but is there a few more that's in like your, or did I was it?
Yeah, no, you kind of nailed it. It's not writing books. I love having books written, but I find them very hard to write. They're good at marketing and branding for me, so I outsource that. I have a group that I work with that takes all the ideas out of my head and they help me craft them. So it's coaching, it's speaking, it's doing media appearances, and it's doing networking. Those 4 things I'm really, really good at. So even like in the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, my entire 2 days have been coaching and doing speaking and media appearances. Tomorrow is pretty much the same thing. Tomorrow I've got a coaching call. I have a group call with my OpSpot group. I have another coaching call and I have a media interview. Today I had 2 media interviews and a team meeting. Thursday I have a call with my coach, a coaching call and a media interview.
Cool.
And I don't work Fridays. I haven't worked Fridays in years.
Wow. No, man, it's so cool. And I think, you posted on Instagram probably a month ago, you said, I'm in Vancouver. If you got a podcast, hit me up. And I just was like, I got to message this guy. Because also a mutual friend of ours, Ryan Lermit, runs Umbrella Property Services. You were a client of his and he would rave about you, man, that you were so great to work for. He said, you gotta check out Cameron's stuff. And he was the push. And I'm like, I'm going to be bold and try to get you on my show. And you write back, yep, I'm good. Like, message my assistant and here we are. So you got to be bold too in business and have some balls.
And you gotta be bold and have some balls. You got to reach out. You got to ask for what you want. My dad taught me that at a very young age. If it's worth having, it's worth asking for. And then for me, a lesson, I talked about this in my book, Free PR, when the media calls, say yes. So for me, your podcast, it's not like I'm being on Joe Rogan's podcast, but this podcast will give me exposure to a good audience. But then I can take this podcast when you send me the links, and I can share it on Facebook 3 times a year, LinkedIn 3 times a year. I can add it to my press page. I can email it to my list. It becomes third-party social proof. And while we're doing it, I'm capturing B-roll on this camera. So I'm actually getting additional footage that my team can use and slice into small videos and use on social media. So I'm getting additional leverage. So it becomes third-party social proof that I kind of leverage out. So I say yes to these things because I know that I can now outsource these to my team. And for $6 an hour, I can have somebody leveraging all this stuff for us.
Yeah, no, it's so smart. I got one more to fire you, man. You are COO of a home service company today, and you're turning on your visionary brain. What do you see coming around the corner if we look at, say, the year 2030? What do you see changing in the landscape in the next 5 years? A business owners listening, and Cameron's saying, I got the ear of thousands right now, like guys, girls, business owners, like be aware of this. Is it AI? Like what is the thing?
Yeah, it's every single aspect of your business that is not on site with the customer. Your company or your competitor will be leveraging AI and offshore talent to do every single aspect of that business, from the marketing to the onboarding of the clients, to the sales of the clients, to the follow-up of the clients, to the invoicing and billing and accounting and messaging, to leveraging social media posts, to recurring clients, to, all that will be done with AI and with outsourced talent. So that's number one. I think number two is that all of your sales and marketing initiatives will be automated and optimized and outsourced for you. So you'll have to be building with that. I think networks, that you'll have to be a part of networks to grow your skills and grow your confidence and stay connected and stay ahead of the curve, will be huge. I mean, I think we're going to start to see, robotics come in over the next, like in 2030, we're going to start to see robotics on site. I mean, look, I drove in the first autonomous vehicle in 2011 at the main TED conference. So 13 years ago in the parking lot at TED, I drove in the first Google experimental car. But last December, so 4 months ago, I drove in the first driverless Uber in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I did 3 or 4 drives over the course of 3 days where Uber came, I went out into the car and I sat down in this car and it drove me to my destination. Yeah. So drivers are out of business, right? You'll be able to send a vehicle. An autonomous vehicle will go to the store and pick up your stuff and come and drop it off at your site for you. You're not going to be running materials around. Yeah. Driverless vehicles will do that. So yeah, I think we're going to be able to see a lot of this stuff come into our business.
Yeah, man, I joke with my wife about that. I'm like, our son Beckham's probably not going to get a driver's license in 60. Like he might, but I just think that's where the world's going. Why would you?
He'll get a ticket. He'll get a ticket at Disney World to go drive a car. But yeah.
Totally. Well, Cameron, this has been amazing. Guys, Cameron has a podcast, the Second in Command podcast. I'm going to link up, Cameron, your books as well, because they certainly helped me. Is there anywhere else you're like, hey, listeners, sub $1 million? Because you coach a lot of higher businesses than the listeners. But what would be some entry level, like Cameronisms people could kind of get their toe in the water in your ecosystem?
Yeah, they're not going to want me to coach them because I'm $80,000 a year to coach you. So you don't want that. But if they use this promo code, if they use Cameron H, so CAMERONH 10, the number 10, they'll get 10% off my Invest in Your Leaders course. They should go through that content, and anyone that works for them that manages people should go through that content. It'll cost you about $700 per person to go through it. It's irresponsible of you not to go through that content and study that content, because that's how you'll grow your company. That would be number one. Number two, I would say the 2 best books of mine for them to read after they go through the Invest in Your Leaders course would be Double Double. And I would read chapters 1, 2, 6, and 12 to start with, 1, 2, 6, and 12. And then I would also take a look at the book, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, that I co-authored with Hal Elrod. Would be very good for this listener too.
Miracle Morning, Double Double.
No, The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs.
For Entrepreneurs with Hal Elrod. Okay.
Yep.
We'll link all this up, Double Double, and then get on that Invest in Your Leaders course. And man, for 10% off, $700, like, it just fires me up, man. Like, people overvalue their money than their time. I'm like, you get Cameron's brain on here. It's a no-brainer.
You know what? I was talking to one of my kids about this the other day. I said, when I was 16, 20 years old, I would spend 20 minutes waiting for a bus to save $10. And now I'll spend $10 to save 20 minutes, right? So it's all about momentum, creating momentum. I've already built all of the companies that, or coached like I've coached so many people in the home services sector too. I've coached clients that are in HVAC. I've coached clients that are in plumbing and heating. I've coached clients in the painting industry. I've coached in home services. Like, I've built brands in this space. I know what you're going through. That content in the Invest in Your Leaders course is absolutely a no-brainer. Like, it's irresponsible not to do it. Here's the thing for me. I see everybody who's listening right now or watching kind of like a fly trying to get out the window. And they're going to keep banging their head on the window. And most flies, we've seen them, they end up dead on the windowsill. The shortcut is to turn and go out the door. It's right here. Like, I'm giving you those shortcuts. That's what we did at 1-800-GOT-JUNK. The reason we were successful Brian didn't know what to do and he was banging his head on the window. It took him 12 years to go from $1 million to $2 million.
Really?
12
I
years.
didn't know that. Wow.
He started it in 1989. I joined him in 2000. So he got to $2 million in 12 years. I took him from $2 million to $106 million in 6.
Wow.
When you grow your people and grow their confidence and grow their connections, the company scale. That's what those tools in the Invest in Your Leaders course, that's what we did.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, Cameron. Well, Cameron, thanks so much for blessing us, man, with your time. We'll get this up on all our channels. We'll link up your stuff. And for me, man, it's just been a bit of a fanboy experience getting to sit and hear you do some teaching here, man. So I really appreciate your time today.
You're welcome. I'll be back in the summer. Maybe we can play around the golf too.
Yeah, sounds good, my man. Right on.
Right.
Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks, dude. See ya.
See ya.